In a bustling office, a quiet janitor named Sam becomes the target of a cruel prank, a fake blind date meant to embarrass him. But when the company's CEO unexpectedly arrives at the same restaurant, the night takes an unforgettable turn, teaching everyone a powerful lesson about respect and dignity. The fluorescent lights of Grant and Company flickered as another long workday came to an end. The hum of printers and the faint aroma of fresh coffee lingered in the air while employees packed their bags and exchanged weekend plans. In the far corner of the office, Sam quietly emptied the last trash bin, his movement steady and unhurried. Sam had worked as the company's janitor for nearly 5 years. He was soft-spoken, polite, and always ready with a warm nod, but he rarely engaged in long conversations. Most of the staff barely knew him beyond his gentle smile and the way he kept every hallway spotless. At a cluster of desks near the window, a group of young employees whispered conspiratorially. Megan, the energetic marketing assistant, leaned in and lowered her voice. "Okay, hear me out," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "What if we set Sam up on a blind date? Friday night. We tell him someone really wants to meet him." A few chuckles rose from the group. Kyle, who loved to push a joke too far, grinned. "Perfect. We can book a fancy restaurant, maybe that new bistro downtown. Let's see how long he waits before he realizes it's a prank." It started as a ripple of laughter, but soon their plan began to take shape. They rationalized it as harmless fun, telling themselves it would lighten the dull office mood. Someone suggested printing a fake note from a secret admirer. Another offered to call the restaurant and secure a reservation under a mysterious name. They were thrilled by the thought of Sam walking into a fine dining place, quiet, hopeful, while they secretly watched from a nearby table. Meanwhile, Sam was finishing his shift, oblivious to the cruel scheme. He moved from desk to desk, carefully aligning chairs and wiping down keyboards. He loved the quiet after everyone left, when the only sounds were the soft hiss of the HVAC system and the swish of his mop. For Sam, the silence wasn't loneliness, it was peace. But he did sometimes wish for companionship, someone to share a cup of coffee with after a long day. Just as Sam prepared to leave, Megan approached with a bright, almost too friendly smile. "Hey, Sam," she began, pretending to fidget shyly. "This is a little awkward, but someone from another department noticed you. She thinks you're really kind and, would love to meet you for dinner Friday night. If you're free?" Sam paused, surprised. Compliments were rare, and the thought of someone noticing him warmed his chest. He hesitated, then smiled. "Sure, that sounds nice." The group exchanged barely hidden grins as Megan handed him the address of the upscale bistro. After Sam left, their laughter returned, soft but sharp enough to cut. They pictured him sitting alone at a candlelit table, waiting for a woman who didn't exist. What none of them realized was that this simple act of cruelty would set the stage for a night they'd never forget, and for a lesson they would all carry far beyond the walls of their polished office. Friday evening arrived with a soft drizzle that slicked the streets and turned the city lights into shimmering streaks of gold. The upscale bistro Megan had chosen was warm and inviting, its floor-to-ceiling windows glowing against the damp night. Sam arrived a few minutes early, dressed in his best shirt, one he'd ironed carefully at home. He carried a quiet mix of nerves and excitement, hopeful that the stranger he was meeting might really want to know him. He approached the hostess stand with a polite smile. "Reservation for Sam?" he asked. The hostess nodded and guided him to a small corner table set with a flickering candle and 2 menus. Sam settled in, smoothing the tablecloth and checking the door every few moments. He felt a flutter in his stomach, an unfamiliar spark of anticipation. Across the room, hidden behind a large potted plant, Megan, Kyle, and 2 other coworkers slipped into a booth. They'd arrived early to watch the show, their laughter barely contained as they peered around the greenery. Megan snapped a quick photo of Sam, her phone camera's soft click almost drowned out by the clatter of silverware. "He actually came," Kyle whispered, his grin wide. This is priceless. Minutes passed. 10. 15. Sam ordered a glass of water and kept glancing toward the entrance. His hopeful smile slowly softened into a look of quiet uncertainty. Maybe she was running late. Maybe she'd had an emergency. He tapped the edge of the menu, forcing himself to stay patient. Then, the bell over the restaurant door chimed, and the atmosphere shifted. A woman in a tailored navy coat stepped in, shaking off the rain. It was Ms. Evelyn Carter, the CEO of Grant & Company. She carried the kind of presence that turned heads without a word. The staff greeted her warmly, clearly she was a regular, and led her toward a reserved table. From their booth, Megan and Kyle exchanged startled glances. "That's the CEO," Megan hissed, suddenly uneasy. They hadn't counted on a company leader choosing the same restaurant, the same night that Ms. Carter scanned the room, her sharp eyes sweeping across tables until they rested on Sam. Recognition flickered in her gaze. She paused, then changed direction and walked toward him with a curious smile. "Sam?" "Good evening," she said warmly. "I didn't expect to see you here." Sam stood quickly, caught off guard. "Oh, hello, Ms. Carter." I'm just waiting for someone," he replied, his voice tinged with both politeness and quiet hope. As they spoke, Ms. Carter noticed the cluster of employees half hidden behind the plant. Their stifled giggles, the way they ducked when she glanced their way, it all fell into place with startling clarity. Her friendly expression cooled, her eyes narrowing just enough to signal a shift. Something wasn't right. Without missing a beat, she turned back to Sam and said softly, "Would you mind if I joined you for a moment?" Sam blinked, surprised but grateful, and nodded. The CEO pulled out the chair opposite him, her composure calm but her mind already piecing together the truth behind this strange evening. Ms. Evelyn Carter sat across from Sam, her posture graceful yet unmistakably firm. The candlelight flickered between them, casting soft shadows across her thoughtful face. "Sam," she said gently, "may I ask who you're meeting tonight?" Sam hesitated, fingers tracing the rim of his water glass. It was supposed to be a blind date, he admitted, his voice almost apologetic. "Someone from the office said a woman wanted to meet me here. Maybe she got delayed." Ms. Carter's eyes narrowed just slightly, not in suspicion of Sam, but in recognition of something mean-spirited lingering in the air. She turned her head and let her gaze sweep the room. The barely disguised whispers, the occasional flash of a phone camera, and the familiar faces peeking from behind the large potted plant told her everything. She placed her napkin on the table and stood, a quiet authority radiating from her every movement. With a calm, steady stride, she approached the booth where Megan, Kyle, and their companions huddled. The group's laughter died the moment they saw her silhouette. "Good evening," Ms. Carter said, her voice smooth but edged with steel. "Would any of you like to explain why you're spying on your colleague's dinner?" No one spoke. Megan's phone slid under the table, and Kyle suddenly found the pattern of the floor tiles fascinating. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable, until Ms. Carter continued, each word deliberate. "Sam is one of the most dependable people in this entire company. He keeps our workplace safe, clean, and welcoming, often staying late while the rest of you head home. And yet, you thought it amusing to humiliate him for entertainment?" A nervous cough escaped someone's throat. The restaurant seemed to shrink, every nearby diner catching the tension in the air. Ms. Carter's gaze moved from face to face, unyielding. "Cruelty," she said, her tone quiet but commanding, "has no place in my company. If this is how you treat a team member, perhaps you should reconsider whether Grant & Company is the right environment for you." The group's bravado melted into silence. Megan's cheeks flushed crimson. Kyle opened his mouth, then closed it again. No apology could fill the weight of the moment. Ms. Carter turned back to Sam, who was standing now, uncertain and embarrassed. Her expression softened. "Sam," she said warmly, "if you'll allow me, I'd be honored to join you for dinner. No one should have to sit alone because of someone else's cruelty." Sam blinked, caught between surprise and relief. I'd like that," he said quietly. As Miss Carter returned to the table with him, the restaurant resumed its gentle hum, but the corner booth remained frozen in uneasy silence. The lesson was unmistakable: dignity and respect cannot be mocked without consequence. By the end of the night, Sam was no longer just the quiet janitor in anyone's eyes, he was a valued part of the team, and the memory of that evening would echo long after the plates were cleared and the candles burned low.